Think different. That's what Apple had said in 1997 when it promoted the idea that some of the brightest thinkers and world changers would have used a Mac. That Apple didn't conform to convention, but forged their own path by doing things and trying things that no one else ever dared to, with its PowerPC processors outperforming comparable Intel processors at lower clock frequencies and less heat. But of course, with more engineering dollars going into the x86 platform, the PowerPC processor eventually struggled to keep up. In 2006, Apple introduced Macs which were powered by Intel processors. While still leading the market with some of the highest-end consumer computers, the Mac lost some of its uniqueness. Which brings us to 2020. In a bold and daring move, Apple thinks completely different and releases the M1 Apple Silicon chip. Small and unassuming, but does it ever pack a punch? And it grossly exceeded our expectations during testing. Let's start with battery life. We decided on 1080p 10-bit video encoded in H.265 or HEVC running on looped playback. Since QuickTime doesn't support HEVC, we installed VLC or Video LAN client. Surely running an Intel application via Rosetta 2 translation decoding video overnight would weed out Apple's ideal conditions and show the MacBook's true colors. And it did. We ran the MacBook at full brightness for an astonishing 11 hours and only dropped to 45% from full. Not only that, CPU usage averaged around 25%, GPU 6%, and the MacBook chassis was barely warm to the touch. Now let's talk performance and thermals. What we can say is that the OS is incredibly snappy, from boot time to wake from sleep to opening applications. During the HEVC test, we measured 23.9 degrees Celsius at the palm rest, 24.2 degrees at the chiclet keys, 25.7 degrees at the upper frame, and 23.5 to 24.5 on the underside plate, with the warmer area towards the region of the M1 CPU. In the Heaven benchmark, we observed between 30 and 50 frames per second with an average of 38 frames per second. After 30 minutes, the palm rest held relatively cool at 32.8 degrees, the chiclet keys at 34 to 35 degrees, upper frame at a toasty 37 to 44 degrees depending on proximity to the M1, and the underside plate at 33 degrees towards the bottom, ranging to 42 degrees towards the top hinge. A second cold run start, running in a deep freeze, did not cause any notable change in frame rate, suggesting that thermal throttling is not a significant factor in this particular benchmark. As far as general use, the MacBook wakes from sleep pretty instantaneously, just as advertised. The speakers are incredible for the size, and dare I say, sound almost lifelike. Seriously, they're absolutely fantastic. The UI in macOS 11 Big Sur is fluid and smooth as expected. Rosetta 2 doesn't seem to break a sweat running any x64 Intel app binaries. The computer feels like a premium product as expected with any MacBook. The hinge is buttery smooth with a satisfying soft click when closed. The massive trackpad leaves you satisfied enough not to desire an external mouse. The MagSafe connector still has not made a comeback. With such a sleek and soft design of this machine, the USB Type-C feels just a little chonky by comparison, although the interchangeability between USB Type-C devices is much welcomed. Now for the bad. And really, there isn't much to say. My one complaint is still the keyboard and the trackpad. The movement away from the butterfly keys is a huge plus as far as reliability. However, for my personal taste, I find the movement distance in the keys to be a little lackluster. The keys, although soft and premium feeling, lack the satisfying movement and assertiveness that a button has been pressed. The webcam is only 720p, which seems a bit shortcoming considering the cost and the fact that this is 2020. Nothing says 2015 like a 720p webcam. The image quality is decent though. Apple claims to improve the image quality through software enhancements. Low light pickup is quite good in general, although you'll trade off in some image grain. Overall, the webcam is more than adequate, but the images have more grain in general than we'd like to see, and Apple could certainly have done better. Lastly, we did find Rosetta 2 to be less than perfect, although this is somewhat of an expectation given the experience with Rosetta 1. For testing purposes, we did rely heavily on Google Chrome as the method of testing Rosetta, and although browsing was more than usable, we did find crashes occurred with some regularity. This issue should be resolved though, after applications get ported to Universal Binary. So to sum it up, should you buy one? Well, that depends. General users who rely on some App Store apps, primarily do web browsing, watch movies, and browsing the web, the M1-powered Mac is probably for you. You'll thoroughly enjoy the beautiful display, the lifelike audio, and the unprecedented battery life. If you're a Pro user though, I wouldn't get the MacBook Air M1, and I don't think I'd recommend the MacBook Pro M1 either. Yet. You'll likely rely on apps which have not been natively ported to M1, and translation through Rosetta is less than perfect, as we noted. Further, if you use any Windows applications, be forewarned that there is currently no way to run these apps on the M1 Mac. There is no Bootcamp, there is no virtualization such as Parallels or VMware, although Parallels have hinted that a solution may be coming. So if you rely on non-native apps or Windows applications, just hold off for the time being. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, as this will help us develop more videos and improve our presentation and video quality. Until next time, we'll see you later.